Yeah, hi. I hope you've had a chance to watch the first video. It's you really need to watch the first video before we can start talking about the selection. So I've got a selection tool. Eventually, we may do this as an app, but it's initially a CNI selection tool. And I'm going to talk you through the selection tools. This is really finding the right product that's going to fit for your application. So if you look at the form, it actually calls it CNI selection tool. It's actually a spreadsheet, but or a form. So it's more trying to get an understanding of your application. It's really, really important to get this information. And initially, one of us can check it and come back with a proposal based on the filling of this form. So let's start off. What size battery do you think you need? This is the capacity of the battery itself. We start off with the first two smaller ones, which is a 16 and a 48 kilowatt. That's on the LK Express. These are our miniaturized versions of the unit. Then we move on to the power hub, which is 100 kilowatt, which is the smallest power hub we do. And then a 215 power hub. Then the optimum power hub, which is a 256. The 256 is based on a larger single capacity battery. That's why it's 256. And then 512, which is two power hubs. And then we go on to the indicator, which is a 1 megawatt hour unit, 2 megawatt hour, and then past that is the multiples of the unit, single units. It's better to keep it single units, or if you're going to be using two megawatts and a 1 megawatt for a five, for example, it's better to do that because all the approvals and they are AC coupled any case, but we can come up with the best optimum solution. So first of all, you're looking for your battery size. What size inverter do you need? So the inverter will normally be half the size of the battery, and that allows a 2 hour charge and discharge, which is we call a C.5 rating. Wouldn't never go back bigger than that generally because it's too much stress on the batteries. It will shorten life. And so whatever people claim or whatever different people, manufacturers claim, you better go 0.5 because if you go to one, it means all the cable, everything is going to be much thicker and it's not always the optimum choice. So what size inverter? So the small LK will give you a 12, which is a single inverter, or a 36. Note the 12 is only a single phase. So if you're looking for a single phase, the 12 and the 36 on the LK Express are low voltage units. They are different to the rest of the range, so that doesn't use the same modular form as everything else, but they're also are modular form, but they're slightly different. And then going on to the sort of LK range, which is the 50 and then 100, 125. The 100 is actually a dumbed down version of a 125, and then 250, which is two 125s, 500, which is four 125s, and then we go to the 1 megawatt and so on, which is the 2 megawatt, which are the indicators. So the battery generally would be 50% of the size. Sorry, the inverter would be 50% of the size of the battery. So it's worth considering that. And again, we've listed it onto this form, so it's just a tick box. Next, if you are going to use solar on the system, what size solar have you got? Which is your MPPT, which is your tracker size. And so what we're asking you is what do you think you're going to be fitting? So it starts on the LK range, which was the baby ones, which is 15 or 45. They're only baby ones. And then we go right on to the 50, 100, 125. So that would be the tracker size. It's not necessarily saying what size battery, saying what your sort of size would be, which would be a tracker. But your tracker would be different to your array, but what you think you use, and the standard trackers, which are rounded up. Then we'll go on to the next section, which is your maximum charge and discharge. So most of these are based on 2 hour, which is 0.5. But if you want a 4 hour, it means you need a smaller inverter to the battery. So we're giving you the choice. So if you tick 4 hours, if you only wanted to charge or discharge in 4 hours, don't worry about your selection. We can then come back and give you some advice. And then you've got a 6 hour, and then you may have another one. You may want it to run for three or 4 days. And so you need to suggest what you need, what you're looking for. Your solar panel array, what size array? If you're going to fit an array, you just need to list what size. So you could say, right, okay, I'm going to fit in a 50 kilowatt or whatever. You would have done your calculations and it will give you that. Number of strings is the number of panels. So you may have like 3 strings, 4 strings, 5 strings on the array. It's important to understand about that and to understand if they're balanced, and then we can make any recommendations. The next, what type are you going to unit? Is it going to be on grid? And most of those will be on grid. So the most of them will be an on-grid installation. But is it an on-grid installation? Is it an off-grid installation? So both on and off-grid are the simplified units, which is all on-grid, all off-grid. And then you're going to be looking for, is it going to be UPS, uninterruptible power supply, which is a continuous flow. And depending on your applications, we may come back with other recommendations. Is it going to be a hybrid that's going to have that's going to have an STS? So you need to request if it's going to be a hybrid solution or something else. There might be something else you might be on. They're the major options, but there are other reasons. So the reason I'm saying something else, you might want to use it from a single phase to a three-phase conversion, for example. So there are other things that you may need. So you need to, if there's something else, please put it out. Do you need a generator input? Simple yes or no. So that's something we do need to understand about. Do you need a manual changeover switch for the generator input, which is just a switch? So you manually swap it yourself. It's not an automatic system. You can do a motor driven one, but it is like an ATS, and there's a delay because if you can't do it so fast because you're trying to sync. If you go very fast when you're using other methods, which I'll talk about in a second. But if there's a switch, there's a delay. So if you lose power, the power will go off maybe for 5 or 10 seconds. The generator connected, come back on again. And that's the speed, because if it's instant, then you have to have the synchronization of the wave formation. If there's a delay, then you don't need the synchronization of the wave formation. And you could do that by a motor-driven switch or just a manual switch, whatever you choose to use. That's the cheapest form. You do need to answer that. There is another method. Do you want to using a secondary inverter, a slave PCS? The answer is, if it's yes, then just tick it. The slave PCS, if you look at the training, is where you have a secondary PCS. There's no changeover. It's seamless. And the slave PCS could be used for DC coupling if you need an absolute system that can never, ever go off, or you want complete isolation, but via DC, so you've got no AC isolation. It might be in a restricted place, and you don't want the AC going through, and therefore we can using a DC coupled unit. And we can do that. So you need to decide exactly what you want. So you can have it with 0.0000 clicks or whatever, or you can want, I want a so many millisecond connection, or you've got that choice. If you are using a secondary PCS, then you need to specify the size, what you think would be required. Again, if you're unsure, then that's fine. We can look at other options. If you're absolutely unsure on it, we can help on that. We're asking you, what's the main purpose for it? Is it load shaving? Basically, if you need more energy, you haven't got enough energy. Is it energy boosting? Similar to load shaving. Are you trading power? Is it just to earn money? You want to buy cheap, sell expensive? Is it frequency trading? If it's frequency trading, you will need extra kit in there that we can help supply. For power stability is similar. Is it all about saving money? You're just going to use it you're going to use it on a factory building. You want to buy cheaper and just spread your energy use over the day. So you need to understand that. Is it using for off power installation? Is it to integrate solar with it? So we're just asking, and you can tick more than one question if you want to. It's quite important. Next question we're asking, what's the load type? Do you know it? Is it a mixed load? So like a house domestic is normally classed as a mixed or a complex load. If it's in a factory with big machines, then it's going to be a heavy reactive load because it is inductive. We haven't actually separated inductive or capacitive, but generally in a factory, it will be an inductive loading. Is it a passive loading? So passive would be just simple lighting. So if you're going to supply something which is very simple, then it's a pure passive load is the nicest load, but very few. Or something else, you need to identify that. Grid code compliance. If you're not sure, we can maybe talk about it and help. Most applications will be star or Y connection. Star or Y at about sort of 380 to 400 volts. If it's UK and European, if it is the Philippines, it may be Delta connection at 240 volts, and then your frequency, which is around 50 or 60 hertz. So some parts of this in Southeast Asia are 60 hertz. The Americas are generally 60 hertz. For Europe is generally 50 hertz. Again, we can talk about that. And on the voltage selection, you just have to say the voltage reference is either L1 to neutral or L1, L2, or L3 across phase. You need to just show whether it's across phase. The final question we really need to know is, do you need a transformer? Yes or no, or any other requirements? And I'm also asking a question, obviously, what country is it going to be installed into? Because it makes a big difference. And also operating temperatures. Do you know what the high-low temperatures are for the country? And is the thing going to be whether it's going to be an exposed area or not an exposed area? So based on all that information, then we can give you, and if you've got any other drawings or anything else, we can make a recommendation which system you should be using. I'll put a link for this document where you can download it, or I'll actually put a PDF of it onto the video with it. So hopefully this will make some sense. I'm trying to rush through it. I'm talking rather fast. I'm trying to get through it as quickly as possible. All right. Hopefully that's useful. And let's get some business, because you know what? These products are fantastic. I said it on the other video. I love them. I look absolutely superb. Thanks for following.